Clones, man. Welcome to the Believe in Iowa State podcast. Let's just jump right into this, man. This game wasn't pretty. This was sort of like shades of the UCF game. We did so many things to beat ourselves. We deserved to lose this game, but you know what? Good teams win, and this team is good. We won. We're 9-2, and now everything is on the line. And just in a crazy day of college football, we're going to go into that. But now, says it's a win and in situation for the Cyclones, Cody.
Yeah. Uh, you mentioned it sounding like the UCF game. I feel like this looked more like the Texas Tech game.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was more the Texas Tech game. Shooting like we necessarily weren't shooting ourselves in the foot as much in the UCF game as we did at Texas Tech. UCF's just run offense, which is running all over us, and
Right.
I mean that wasn't really necessarily the case for this game. I mean there were great moments for their rush game, but we held them to 95 yards rushing overall. I mean they had a couple long runs, but that generally was the main thing. You had Luke Bateri with a 40-yard long run, but that was the you take that run out, he only got 7 yards out of three carries. So outside of these
Right.
big plays, we were able to really take care of things on the defensive side. I mean, unfortunately, we shot ourselves in the foot with a bad turnover, a couple behind throws, especially that pick six. Then you follow that up with the muff punt from Jalen Knoll, and I there was just so many reasons that Iowa State could have lost this game, but to their credit, they were able to stay in the game. They were able to stay locked in, stay focused, and have the mental fortitude to be able to move from that and not let these mistakes weigh them down.
Yeah, man. Like Mike Campbell has said throughout the whole season, the mantra this year: play tougher, longer, and that's what they did. They played tougher, longer, and man, I mean, you look because you look at the game and the defense, man. I got to give credit to this defense, man. The defense came to play today. Like you saw just with Jack Sadowski, and Jack Sadowski was playing on a different gear. Um, I mean, um, and just Will McLaughlin. When you have a linebacker that knows what he's doing, that stirs up that second level of the defense. Like they were going in pursuing the backs. The corners played well today. I mean, I want to commend that defense for showing up when it mattered.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, outside of that late touchdown drive for Utah, the defense really held their own. Like,
We sure did.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, the score is going to look deceiving, but I would say that game was most because, like, again, referring to those special teams miscues, but our defense was doing a really good job at, like, limiting, like, those big plays and just really keeping Isaac Wilson and even Batari in check.
Right.
And I mean, obviously, being able to capitalize off a turnover, get that fumble off the bad handoff, which I believe resulted in a touchdown for Iowa State. Let me just take a look here. Let me just make sure that that's correct. Let's see. Off the fumble. Let's see. Yeah, it was a touchdown. Now that was a
Hmm.
very long like drive to get into the end zone because there were a lot of the offense was not really being able to push down the field. Like they didn't get what they were wanting, and some fans were getting growing frustrated. I know I was when I was watching that, but ultimately at the end we were able to punch it in for a touchdown, and I think from there, like the game was very much in hand up until the blocked punt for a touchdown, which I felt was kind of poetic because we were on the benefiting end of it, and now we felt what it's like to get scored on because of it.
Hmm.
And yeah, just at that point, Utah had the momentum. Iowa State was just not able to get anything on their next drive, give up a touchdown, but they responded. The offense responded, getting that touchdown, and I mean, then they were able to force Utah to kick a 54-yard field goal, and yeah, from there, yeah, that basically just being able to have that toughness, even though you just gave up a touchdown the last drive, you forced Utah into a very difficult situation where they must make the field goal in order to extend the game, and they did a really great job. So I commend the defense, and yeah, this defense is back to being legitimate now that we have two linebackers back that I think are very capable of playing, and we were able to get like some great penetration with
Oh yeah.
Dom Orange. I'm trying to think of his name. Zamir Hawk got some penetration as well,
Yep.
and our linebackers, like Tayo and Yendam, even so they were getting able to get penetration. So that's the thing I want to see, and that's good that we saw it against Utah. And if we keep that up, we force Avery Johnson into very uncomfortable positions, and we force him to make a play. We can capitalize off of that.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna be the biggest game of the season. Probably the biggest game in Iowa State history. Let's
Absolutely,
stop playing. Like that's gonna be the biggest game in school history. We
absolutely.
always say that, but I like with what we have on the line, get making it to our second conference title game in 4 years, and then just the fact that we can finally
Get over the
get this
hurdle.
10-win monkey off our back,
Hmm.
like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. And then during halftime, like on the halftime, they announced that Iowa State, Kansas State, Farmageddon, it's gonna be a 6:30 Central kickoff. So another night game for the Iowa State Cyclones. And I mean, to their credit, they have done well in these night games.
They've done well in these night games, and you already know that Tim Brando's probably going to be on the call. So,
Hmm.
I mean, we haven't lost with him. So,
Yeah.
I
I mean, Rocco knows, and I mean, we'll see like how the uniforms are, but just with
think we're
that,
wearing we're wearing black jerseys.
I honestly, if we're winning in those, keep it. Don't change anything.
We're wearing black. We're wearing all blacks against K State.
Yeah, I know some
Um,
fans may not like the All Blacks, but it's like, hey, we're keep winning in them, and you know how Matt Campbell is very superstitious, and the way we were
mhm.
playing in them, we yeah, I mean, anytime we wore the black unis outside of that, like, so that Cincinnati game, the UCF game, yeah, those two games, and I believe those are the two times we've worn black. We've won both of them
Mhm.
in very different fashions too. One of them you had to gut out a win late. The other
Right.
one, like you showed you can win in multiple ways here. And I think that's
Right.
great for Iowa State. They can show they can win by dominating you. They can win a tight one against you. And just yeah, I think that's both danger for this Kansas State team who is coming off a bye week, but they've lost two straight.
Right. And we have always said if this team is able to figure out like how to win one score games, like we'll have a good season. And like because of that, we've been in what 3 or 4 one-score games, and we're what like 3-1 in those.
Okay, so Iowa we've won. UCF and won. Lost Texas Tech. So that's 2-1. We are 3-1 and one score games.
Yeah, so like, and everybody brings up that stat before the season that Matt Campbell was like 5 and like 24 or something in one-score games
Hmm.
in his career, but like that one season, you can turn it around, and like having the mental fortitude, and like the mantra being tougher for longer, like sticking it out and giving it your all, like that's been the mantra of this team this season, and like this team truly believe, even if the fan base don't believe, they truly believe that they can do it. Like it's insane.
Hmm. Exactly. And I mean, yeah, with the way that went edges out and we were able to gut that out, that puts us in a prime position to go to Arlington. And now what you should have at the top of the Big 12, you have a four-way tie for first place in the Big 12.
Hmm.
Arizona State picking up that very close, like that was a dominant win of the like it was dominant in the first half, but BYU was able to crawl back. But Arizona State able to hang on even after they rushed the field preemptively because of that clip. And you saw Kenny Dillingham, Cam Scatterbo telling all the fans to clear off the field because there was still a second left. And Jake Retzlaff, he put that throw on the money, but if it was a couple of yards further, that's a TD because the receiver did catch it, but it ended up being 2 yards short. So think about that. It's being 2 yards away from pulling off that comeback win against Arizona State. But that's a what if. You can't throw that now. Like all that matters now is you either won or lost the game, and Arizona State won that game, and they are probably I think they're the best team. They look like the best team of the Big 12.
They do. besides besides KU, but like, I want to go back to one thing in the game real quick. I know people have been giving Taylor Miles a hard time, but can we give him credit for that ballsy call on
Hmm.
3rd and 1,
Oh,
doing a halfback pass to the tight end to get into the that I lost my mind. I'm like that's so ballsy.
mhm.
I still can't believe that he called that in a crucial situation like that.
Yeah. To correct you, it wasn't third down. It was actually fourth down. That was a fourth down call. That basically, if you don't get that, I don't think you're not seeing the football again. You are not seeing the
Right.
football again. And props to Carson Hansen and Burkle and the rest of the team able to execute. That's been the thing with these plays. It's if you execute it, it's great. If you don't, you look like an idiot. But
Right.
that's the main thing. It all comes down to execution. And today, Iowa State were able to execute in the times that it mattered the most.
Yeah, man. It was just a hell of a game to watch. Now, man, let's get into these games. Already talked about Arizona State, BYU. Now let's talk about KU and Colorado. I mean,
Absolutely.
Devin Neal had the game of his life, especially on senior day. He's definitely going to be probably one of the top running back prospects in this upcoming NFL draft.
Yeah. This was clearly the Devin Neal show. I mean, that dude, I think, yeah, he had 28 of Kansas's points alone. That dude was a one-man wrecking machine
Hmm.
on Colorado. And I mean, this was the Kansas team that like we said, we all expected them to begin the beginning of the season. Unfortunately, they had self-destructed a lot, but I think they were able to find themselves in that Iowa State game. And surprise them, they've rung out three straight against the top 20 ranked opponents in the Big 12. So this, I mean, there's a lot on the line still for Kansas. They could still go bowling. They win next week against Baylor, and I think they might be. Yeah, this is going to be like a big season of what ifs for Kansas. Had they like lived up to the expectations like that they were supposed to be like sooner in the year, not being 6-6, but they could have been like 8-2 maybe. Um, just yeah, but
Also, live update: Auburn defeats Texas A&M.
wait, hold on. No, what?
Yeah, man. They didn't get they didn't convert the 2 point conversion in the fourth overtime. So Auburn just rushed the
Wow,
field. Auburn wins 43-41,
dude,
four overtimes.
this is this is gonna add even more chaos to the SEC because not only did Texas A&M go down, Alabama just got absolutely killed in
By
Norman.
Oklahoma.
That's crazy that we even said that Oklahoma was the team to hand Alabama this emphatic L. And Oklahoma, they're going bowling.
It's been that type of season, man. Like a team that you didn't think would go down and be invincible, they lose. I mean, A&M loses now. Now it's really just Texas by themselves, and it's what probably Georgia now. I don't
Yeah,
even know how.
Georgia.
Like,
Yeah, Georgia is they're second place in the league. And I mean, if A&M is somehow like okay, so I would guess that Texas for sure is a shoe in. We'd have to see the tiebreakers like with Tennessee because
oh yeah, Tennessee. I forgot about
Tennessee
them.
and A&M is still there. They're still there. They if they somehow manage to beat Texas, I would think they would jump Texas because of the head to head. Georgia would have the head to head over Texas as well.
So way
So
it'd be Georgia and A&M, right?
yeah, it would be Georgia A&M if A&M is able to pull out the win. If not, I believe it's going to be Texas Georgia because Georgia did beat Tennessee, and Tennessee would be booted from the SEC championship game as a result of that. So right now, Texas and Georgia. I mean, well, Georgia can't do anything. They because they're done with conference
They're
play.
done with conference now.
So I think they should be fine because yeah, they've beaten both Texas and Tennessee. So I think Georgia is more than likely a shoe in.
Right,
They should
right.
be a shoe in for the SEC championship game just because of the tiebreakers who won. Texas, we'll have to see. Texas, it's a win and in. You win, you're in. If not, it's going to be A&M and Georgia.
Right.
That would be my assumption, unless some tiebreakers end up other ways. But that's generally what I'm seeing. I mean, I'm taking a look, and we're gonna go from the standings here. I just take a break down this Alabama game. Jalen Milrow with 3 interceptions on the day. How about that for the Oklahoma defense? Able to pick off Jalen Milrow multiple times, and one of them even going for a pick six.
Yeah, man. I mean, when you force him to be a thrower of the football, he's more of a runner. I believe he had like 17 rushing touchdowns coming in. So
Yeah,
when you force him to be a thrower, like that's when he makes mistakes.
absolutely.
So
Yep. And Jackson Arnold. I mean, he he was getting it done on the ground. 25 carries for 131 yards. Jackson Arnold was he basically what Jalen Milrow was the entire year.
right, it's insane. Oh, let's talk about we gotta talk about one team that's near and dear to my heart. The Florida Gators are bowl eligible, baby. They beat the Ole Miss Rebels 24-17 at home.
Very very impressive job from the Florida Gators. I was watching that game with my buddies, and I was saying this game with the way it was going, I just knew you would be so happy like if this game kept going the way it was. And yeah, Florida, the swamp captures another ranked victim of the SEC. First it was LSU, and now it's Ole Miss. You've basically Florida has basically spoiled any chances of the Ole Miss Rebels going to the CFP because if 4-3 in conference, they're not going to the SEC championship game. There's no
Now,
chance. There's no chance, I believe, for Ole Miss to make like. There's very slim chances for them to make the playoffs.
well, yeah, it was that to begin with, and see, but this is the lesson, and when to the bad side of portaling, when you portal your whole team, expectations are going to be like, well, we paid all this money, we expect to make a playoff, but like always, Ole Miss loses crucial games in moments where they should win, and they had plenty of chances to win this game, but they didn't. So
Yeah,
Ole Miss is probably going to be going into Eggball, probably win that, be 9-3, but they're going to be like, man, like we should have won a few more games than we should have, and so
that Kentucky game, I think, is going to sting so much for that Ole Miss team. Losing to Florida and losing to Georgia. I mean wait, no, they did beat Georgia. Excuse me. Losing that game at LSU, that one's going to sting, and losing this game at the
mhm.
Swamp is going to sting. But I think they really want that Kentucky win back because that was at their
They want
place,
that one back,
and
yeah.
I think that right there just showed. I don't know if Ole Miss is truly like who they're outed to be. Some people I knew like had Ole Miss being in the national championship, but yeah, it just didn't fall that way.
Nah,
And as a result of that, Florida, I think what we predicted that Florida wasn't going to have more than 4 wins with this schedule. Because I mean, you had a ranked Miami, you had A&M, you had UCF, who we in the preseason thought that UCF was going to be much better than what they were. You then had Tennessee, you had Georgia, you had Texas, you had LSU, and Ole Miss. The fact they went 2-2 in this frenzy of Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss. Shout out to the Gators.
I mean,
TJ Lackway, he did enough. He did enough to get the Gators over the hump and get them pulling.
yeah, man, and we talked about it. We were talking about in the first half. You're like, well, do you see in this 4 game stretch how many games do you see them winning? And I said either none or one. They needed to win 2 of these games. That's exactly what they did. And hey, now they have a chance to go 7-5 and be safely in the bowl game.
Oh,
It's
for sure.
it's
Yeah.
absolutely insane to me, man.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you were in the, and I mean, here's the thing: they were in that Tennessee game and that Georgia game for a bit. They could have easily won at Tennessee. Tennessee was not playing great, so they could have had that. But I mean, regardless, Georgia, you were in that game as well, and I think this is a lot of confidence for this Florida team and for the fan base of the Gators.
Oh yeah, they're gonna have a renewed sense of confidence. They're gonna probably have new confidence in Billy Napier. Billy
Yeah.
Napier saved his job. This is a great coaching job by him, and just
Mm-hmm.
congrats on the Gators for playing amazing
Yep.
football.
Yeah. So that's from the SEC. Let's hop back into the Big 12. We've already talked about our game at Iowa State. We've also talked about BYU, Arizona State, and Colorado, Kansas. And we can just go down the list here of other games that happened around the Big 12. You had TCU taking it to Arizona. Um,
Man,
that was 49 to 28 was the final score. Josh Hoover, he only had like 252 yards on a passing TD, but Savion Williams got 80 yards for two touchdowns, and Richardson for TCU had 107 yards and a touchdown. It looks like this was, yeah, this was just overall pretty decent day. Box score wise, TCU outgained Arizona by 125 yards. They did turn the ball over two times compared to Arizona's one, but they did get 24 first downs. And I think TCU was just controlling this game from basically start to finish.
did it say how much what was that their total time they possessed the ball?
TCU possessed the ball for 28 minutes, 32 seconds. Arizona had the slight edge in that with 31 minutes and 28 seconds.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, they outgain him by 125, but then they lose. That's interesting. That and then you still lose by three touchdowns,
Yeah.
man.
I mean, here are
I
some of their
yeah.
some of their touchdowns. Savion Williams 20-yard touchdown run. You had a JP Richardson 38-yard pass from Josh Hoover, and a 30-yard run from Jeremy Payne. To so though you had three explosive plays that went for 20 or more yards
Yep.
that result in TD. So I mean, yeah, that might be why the time of possession skewed a little bit because of those explosive touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the story right there, man. It's
Yep.
so yeah, this is and then let's see who else went down today. I'm trying to think.
Uh, West Virginia able to pick up a win over UCF 31 to 21. Now, I think Mima Buddies, I don't know, we mentioned this. This was the basically I made the reference. I called this the pink slip bowl because the loser of this would basically be fired. And looks like West Virginia, you're stuck with Neil Brown because you guys are going bowling. I know how some West Virginia fans want him fired, but for
Yeah,
this game, I think he's staying because he got you guys to a bowl game.
I mean all the and you think about just UCF, all the momentum that they had coming into this league as like, okay, UCF is a great pick. They could be the team, but when you make the wrong hire, back to back losing seasons for UCF, they're going in the wrong direction. And they're
Yeah.
like, man, like, where do we go from here?
I mean, and now I heard that UCF, I think due to some laws in Florida, they have to disband their NIL collective, so that's gonna be even tougher.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let me see. I saw this maybe on Twitter, but I would have to double check it. Yeah.
Okay.
This is from Heartland College Sports. This was November 21st, so this was 2 days ago. So it
Mm-hmm.
says here, I'm reading an article from Brian Clinton says here this week. So it says here this week, UCF Athletic Director Terry Mohajir addressed changes to of this nature that are coming to his program in the very near future. It says here that in his letter to Night Nation, Mohajir provided in-depth update on the university's plans to enhance NIL opportunities for student athletes, announcing the Knights will assume direct leadership of the revenue share going forward. So it
Hmm.
sounds like can't exactly, yeah. So it looks like they're moving away from a third party NIL collective to like kind of being in house. They're gonna have like a lot of like influence in where the money goes to players and whatnot. So that's what it sounds like. I would have to
Oh,
look that up more,
interesting. Yeah.
but yeah, wild times down in Orlando. So
Crazy, man.
yep. Then you had Baylor and Houston going at it, and Baylor is continuing that their hot streak. They are now 7-4 in the conference, and they could be 8-4. They beat Kansas next week. What a turnaround for the Baylor Bears.
What a turnaround for the Baylor Bears. Tough it out with Houston. Houston is in a good direction, but they may have to do something with that offensive coordinator. Barbe, their offensive coordinator, is horrible.
Yeah,
He
there's
they need there needs to be some changes made on the offensive staff. Houston is still going in the right direction, but offensively, their staff needs to be changed. They're doing something good defensively, but yeah,
mhm. Yep. And then the 7 p.m. kickoff game, Kansas State drubbing the Cincinnati Bearcats, and Kansas State off the bye week was able to find themselves Avery Johnson with 147 yards and two passing touchdowns, and then DJ Giddens with 143 yards and two touchdowns. So it looks like that bye week was very fruitful for the Wildcats as they were able to right the ship. And I mean, they are now going to Farm again with an opportunity to play spoiler to Iowa State. And they will love nothing more than to be the reason Iowa State does not get a 10-win season in their program's history. They're chomping at the bit at wanting to be able to do that.
yeah, the eternal stuff that they would have over us.
Yep,
I don't want to experience that.
I
But
know. Yeah,
yeah, they got back on they got back in the winning column today. So 8-3 versus 9-2. So I mean, who's gonna step up?
yeah.
But yeah, man, like really. Is there any other games that caught your eye, even in the national spotlight?
Actually, there's one more Big 12 game, and this is going to be harking back to the old Big 12 versus an offensive shootout. Texas Tech and Oklahoma State in an old Western shootout, but 56 to 48 was the final score, and Texas Tech able to pull out a win in Stillwater and go 7-4 in the year, keeping Oklahoma State away from getting a conference win. Morton with four passing touchdowns and only one pick, and Taj Brooks with 133 yards, three touchdowns. Not to mention Morton passed for 366 yards. So this was an old Big 12. This is the Big 12 that you grew up watching as a kid, and you just saw offense after like offensive drive after drive, touchdown after touchdown after touchdown, and it'd be whoever got the ball last. So yeah, if you felt the nostalgia of watching this game and think of old Big 12, this is exactly what you were looking for. If you wanted to feel just some nostalgia.
Right, and what? So one of our questions coming in to this game was, did would Gundy's players give up on them? No, the answer was no. They came and gave it their all. They just fell a bit short. So, I mean, that sort of answered our question of how the culture is. It's just like for the first time in a long time that it just didn't end up working out for them this season. Usually, we always think, oh, they're gonna figure it out, but they didn't figure it out this year, and they really, really took a step back. I did not expect them to go from being in the conference championship game from possibly being 3-9. Like,
Right. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, that's just the Big 12 in a nutshell. Now, I'm taking a look at some of these national matchups, and the first one that pops to mind is Ohio State. Absolutely wrecking the Indiana Hoosiers' perfect season. They won that game 38 to 15, and this game was all Ohio State. After that first drive for Indiana, it was all Buckeyes from there.
the Buckeyes dominated in every aspect of this game. Got a blocked punt, and they scored on that. Then Indiana was just stymied every single time they tried to do something. That Ohio State defense got pressure on Curtis Rourke and just made them look like they didn't even belong.
Yeah, they
Uh,
made Indiana look silly. I think they kind of exposed like Indiana's like relatively weak schedule. Now, I mean,
mhm.
again, they were dominating teams, but you also have to put a little bit of caveat in. I put respect on Indiana where I did because process that even though for that weak-ish schedule, a weaker schedule that they had, they were still dominating opponents. But now, I mean, they finally ran into the big boys of the Big Ten in Ohio State, and they showed that there's a lot of work to do for Kurt Signetti and company at Indiana if they want to prove that they could be among the elite of the elite in the Big Ten. So this is a loss that like it stings, but this is one that you learn from. You learn like how you compete with these bigger schools and whatnot. So I think this is still like a really successful season for Indiana, and I mean I trust they're going to be 11-1. I don't know how much they're going to drop in the AP poll, or yeah, the AP poll, maybe the CFP rankings, but we'll have to see that this coming week. I mean, I'm not throwing a prediction out yet, but we'll just have to see. About that.
Knowing them, they're probably gonna get punished. If I know the playoff committee, they're
I
probably
don't
gonna get
I
punished
don't
for
think
that.
so because of Alabama's bad. I think Alabama lost worse than Oklahoma because the thing is, both teams were on the road, but Alabama should like on paper was the better team than Oklahoma. Indiana was going up against Ohio State, and Ohio State is Ohio State. So I think Indiana's loss is not going to be as bad as Alabama's loss.
Right.
So I think honestly they may. And again, this is only Indiana's first loss as well, so there has to be some respect that goes there. But I don't know what the CFP committee is thinking. We'll have to see what happens and go from there.
I mean, yeah, and like we'll see what their rationale is gonna be.
Mhm.
It's gonna be interesting to see where the Big 12 ends up, specifically Arizona State and Iowa State
Yeah,
after Texas A&M goes down and
hmm
the plains to
yeah.
Auburn.
Alabama going down as well. There is a lot of chaos that happened with the CFP, and I think Arizona State. Yeah, I think they might. I mean, Boise State. I mean, speaking of the CFP rankings, Boise State barely escapes Wyoming. They won their game 17 to 13. I mean, Ashton Jeffy
Wow.
once again had 169 yards for one touchdown. But man, Wyoming was in this game. It came down to a late touchdown with 5 minutes to go at the game, and Wyoming was never able to return that. But I mean, this again, Boise State was not able to put like some of these teams away, and that's the one thing I've seen people like. I think that's one thing that needs to be understood is even though Ashton Jetty is Ashton Genty, they were. I mean, and this is a bad Wyoming team. They're now 2-9
Right.
on the year, so there has to come a point where the CFP needs to understand that Boise State that loss to Oregon that does not mean much. That does not mean as much because that happened in week 2, and that was not a great Oregon team. That was an Oregon team that was coming off a struggle against Idaho, and for them,
Right.
this is not the same Oregon team that beat Ohio State and is the number one team in the country. They were not looking like Oregon. I'm referring to did not look like the number one team in the country up until they played Ohio State and then on. You could tell there was a shift in how Oregon looked before and after they played Ohio State.
Right. Right. Because they play so much better. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment. We'll see what happens for them,
Mm-hmm.
and see even if they move. There's teams that didn't move last week,
Yep.
which was really crazy to me. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. And struggles as well. Penn State struggled with Minnesota for a while. They
Hmm.
only won that game by 1 point. So I don't know what that's gonna do for Penn State. So we'll have to see how that does. Notre Dame absolutely smoking Army. Notre Dame just couldn't be stopped. They nearly put a 50 on Army.
Yeah, man. Notre Dame is such a mismatch for these service academies. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they always have bad athletes in them, which is why they always win like this game, like
Yeah.
52-7.
Yep. Um, let's see here and mismatch. Miami. It was the at first like it looked a little close. Like it was at one point a tied game early in the first quarter, but Miami was able to control the rest of the game from there because after that 7-7 tie, they went on a 35 to
Yeah,
7 run against Wake Forest,
man.
and I think I mean Miami just I don't know how to really gauge this Miami team because they looked bad against Georgia Tech, but then they come out here against Wake Forest. So I don't know how to gauge Miami, but I mean they're still only a one-loss team, and I do have to put some level of respect there. We'll just have to see how the ACC shapes up, and the ACC championship game is going to have at least it's going to have SMU in that game for sure. They were able to clinch a spot in the championship game after taking care of business against Virginia 33-7. And SMU in their first year in the Power Four conference in the ACC is able to walk in and buy their way into the conference, and they've clinched a spot in the championship game. So
Yeah, man. So that's gonna be a great weekend, great game versus Tulane. So
Tulane
yeah,
with Tulane,
not Tulane. My bad. Sorry.
yeah. I mean, yeah, yeah. I mean, they're for sure. I mean, it's gonna come down to who gets it between Clemson and Miami. I feel like I can lean I can be more confident in Clemson playing against
Yeah.
SMU than Miami playing at SMU. I think Miami is just they've been playing with fire for so long, and I think Clemson has found their footing with Cade Klubnik, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, just been able to like do things like they I think yeah they look good. Let's see. I mean, there's not much else around. Like I can't necessarily say there was much around, but let me see. Did Tulane play this week? Because you mentioned them. I would have to look.
Don't think so.
Huh. Let's see. Let's go to the American. Yeah, no, this was their bye week. Okay, so this was their bye week. So they got to rest. They got to see how the American shaped up. And I mean, it's Thursday. Yeah, Tulane's next game is Thursday against Memphis, and if I'm yeah, and I believe yeah, Army and Tulane are shoe-ins for the Ace, yeah, the American conference, the American Athletic Championship game.
Hmm.
So we'll see. But I think this took a hit. Army, like I don't think you're going to see the American champion in the CFB. It's going to most
They
likely
won't.
be probably Boise State. But if Boise State does not win the Mountain West championship, I don't think the Mountain West is going to leap the Big 12. It just comes down to if Boise State does win, I could see them jumping possibly the Big 12 champion just because of the mosh pits going on. But I think there needs to be a little more criticism to Boise State just because of how they've played against Wyoming.
Nice. Yeah. All right. Do you have any other thoughts before we shut this down?
I think that's about it. Just Cyclone fans, I know how you're feeling. I feel that same way as well. It was not an ugly game. It was not the prettiest game, but this is November football. I I say this when you get to this point in the year, it's no longer about like how you win against these teams. It's if you win. That's the thing. Your team in this point in
Right.
time is who they are. That's who they're gonna be, and just keep on believing in it. Like believe in the Cyclones. They've shown that they can win in multiple ways. They pulled out a tough win. They had the mental fortitude to really be tested and still be able to win these games. And I need everyone to show up to that game against Kansas State. It's going to be cold. I know it might be snowing. It's going to be really cold. So dress warm. But this is potential. This is going to be the biggest game for Iowa State in its history. And I think the team is going to need every single person to pack that stadium because you can potentially witness history for this program. So get out and just tailgate it like all day. We need to just be the most sicko of fan bases, and I really want to make sure show Kansas State that this is not gonna be a you're you might try to spoil our season, but you will have to literally kill this team in order to put us down in the dirt for good and stop us from getting that 10-win season and going to the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, that was great words by Cody. Yeah, y'all pack the jack. I don't care how cold it is. I told you in the offseason I usually don't go to games at 25 degrees. My butt is going. So we need you there. Scream loud, drink some beer, and we're gonna and excuse my language here, but we're about to put belt to ass to K State.
Nothing would satisfy me more than putting belt to ass on them.
All right. So we can be found on Twitter. K State fans, I know you're going to be looking for us specifically because it's Farmageddon week, Farmageddon memes, all that.
Bring it on.
But bring it on,
Bring it on.
bring it on to both of us.
I'm ready.
We're gonna be, we're gonna figure out the show schedule this week. We're gonna be probably doing some basketball too, and
Yeah.
probably recapping Auburn.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna have Logan on, see when he's available. I probably do that Tuesday, and then we're probably gonna do our regularly scheduled show Wednesday.
Sounds good.
So yeah, he is at Matt Kimball Impersonator. I am at Side Tie Guy. Follow us on all of our social media. at Believe in Iowa State, BLEAV, at YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So for Tyler Carter,
And for Cody Van Steele,
this is a Believe in Iowa State podcast. Cardiac Clones.
roll, let's go Cyclones and Cyclone Nation all the way.
My